Hello and welcome. This is Matt McCall. Thanks for joining me here on a Monday morning. Minute or two late, of course, here. Let me just get settled with the computer. Hope everybody had a great long weekend. It's not Monday, it's Tuesday, by the way. Hope everybody had a great long Labor Day weekend. If you're here in the States, if you're outside the States, it looks like there's a few people here already coming in from Australia, Denmark, Montreal. I hope you had a weekend anyway. Nice weekend either way. But we got a lot of people upstate New York, Texas, Michigan. All right, today we're going to talk about the markets. We're going to talk about the cryptos because Bitcoin had another little mini breakout, doing well even though it's pulled back in the last few hours. Still holding above the 51,000 level. And then we're going to talk about urban mobility. And the reason I chose this is because there's a lot of great opportunities in urban mobility in years going forward. Also, I just finished my chapter on transportation for my new book coming up, Roaring 2020s. Many of you know I've been working on it for a while. I had to redo a lot of it due to some situations. So I'm rewriting a lot of it, but it should be out in the near future. This week has been dedicated to it. The long weekend and dedicating the rest of this week to working on that along with some other things as well. And the announcement is coming very soon. I have a meeting later this week, so the announcement will be coming soon. I'll leave it at that because I feel like I keep saying it's tomorrow and next week, and it's not. So ASAP, as I say, as soon as possible. So let's talk about markets. We have the futures up slightly this morning. It's a little after 9 o'clock here, East Coast time. And I had some feedback, kind of complaints, I guess you will, from the West Coast people that it's 6 a.m. there. It's tough for them logging when it's live. I get that, and I've done a couple in the afternoons too. I'm not going to make anybody happy all the time. So I try to do some in the morning, some in the afternoon. And honestly, they're on delay too. So if you have questions, you go shoot me questions on Twitter. I could try to get to them. But for the most part, I'm going to try to mix it up morning, afternoon. I thought after a long weekend, doing a little bit of a morning would be a nice kind of kickoff to the shortened 4-day week. So that's kind of why I jumped in and did it here. But we have the market sitting at or near all-time highs. Not much you could say about that. I was in a car this morning. I had to run some errands and listening to CNBC and Bloomberg on Sirius XM. And I guess it was Bloomberg. I think I was listening at the time. They love to be bearish too because it's just, again, it sells more. They're not as bad as CNBC and a few others, but they like to be bearish as well. And they had, I think, their stocks editor on and somebody else on. And they kept talking about, well, the guy in the morning who's on Tom King with the British accent, he annoys the hell out of me. He just seems really pompous. Maybe it's just the accent. But he kept bringing up 1929, 1987. Obviously we know what happened then, the Great Depression and the Black Monday, one-day sell-off in October of 1987. Both major pullbacks after the market rallied through the first 8 months. Trying to compare where the market's at now to then is just asinine, amateur. And it bothers me. It just, and he didn't flat out say he thinks that's what's going to happen because he shouldn't have an opinion because he's the guy, he's the host of the radio, really. Well, but the fact that you're putting it out there, you're lighting a flame, if you will, and getting people to think about that is just so wrong because what do you see other than the fact the market rallied in 29 and 87 before a pullback? Because if you look back at the times where the market's up 20% or more through the first 8 months, the median gain for the rest of the year is over 2%. So that's the median gain. So how does that equate to calling something that happens about once every 50 years? I mean, it's just very, very amateur what they do because I know my listeners are smarter than this. That being said, it gets to you. It's like a bad commercial. Eventually, you want to go buy the product. Hello from Finland. Nice to have you here. Juho. I don't know how to pronounce that name. Juho. I'm not up on my Finnish right now. So markets continue to look good. I continue to be a buyer of pullbacks. The innovation / small cap, mid cap, long-term tech that I like has been doing very well and I think will continue to do well. So again, you can't go straight up. I mean, it's impossible. We haven't had a 5% pullback all year. Could we have one before the end of the year? Absolutely. And if we do, I'll be waiting there with open-armed buying stocks that I believe are great long-term investments. And we're going to hopefully talk about a few of those here in a minute when we talk about urban mobility. Before we get into that, let's take a look at Bitcoin. It's always easier for me to look at my phone here. When we see where Bitcoin's at, I mentioned, I just checked about 20 minutes ago, it's around 51,000 and change. Right now, we have Bitcoin trading at a very similar area. We have Ethereum trading at 37.59, about 4% down in the last 24 hours. Bitcoin's right around 50,000, 51,000, down about three quarters of 1% in the last 24 hours. Things still look good. Yeah, a lot of people is like, well, it went above 50, but it's not going to 60 yet. Well, it takes time. Keep in mind, we were just in the high 20s a couple months ago. Just in the last few days, we hit a 3.5-month high. So we can't go straight up, folks. But to me, the trend in Bitcoin, the trend in the altcoins, especially the ones you should be in, remains intact. And I truly believe that we do hit a new all-time high in Bitcoin, and a lot of the altcoins by the end of the year. Cardano already hit an all-time high, has pulled back from there. I think it's probably getting close to a nice buying opportunity. So overall, again, I think they are definitely buy on dips, hold for the long term. I think you know my view by now when it comes to that. And that goes for Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano, and a lot of others. Portugal in the house, Toronto in the house, all over the place. Portugal, I'll be going there October 31st for the Web Summit, which is the greatest technology summit in the world, in my opinion. It's that flag, UK flag. All right, see the UK down there. All right, so let's get into urban mobility and talk some stocks here. Like I said, I just wrapped up this chapter, and this is, you might recognize some of the names I talk about, but urban mobility is basically the future of transportation when it comes to city settings, if you will. So I was in New York, was it last week and a half ago, something like that. I lose track of time. And the way I look at it, I took the subway. I was always a subway guy, or I walked. So I jumped on the subway last time I was there. It's pretty empty. And, if you read the stories, it's very dangerous now, or more dangerous, if you will. I feel pretty safe in New York for the most part, and I took the subway. Granted, I wasn't taking it late at night; it was during the day, early morning, but I felt great with it. And but I saw a lot more people on bikes, a lot more people getting around like that. Obviously, people always have been walkers in New York City, but we're going to start seeing the urban mobility spread out. I saw a lot of. Let's talk about the first stock here. It's NIU, which is a symbol is NIU as well. It is a Chinese company. So it makes electric scooters. So it looks like my Vespa I used to have that got stolen. Looks like that. You sit down on it. It's not the ones you stand up, the Bird or the Limes. You actually sit down on it. And Lime has them, and a couple other. Revel is the name of the company that you rent them. You rent them with your phone, just like you'd rent a Bird or Lime scooter, and you hop on it. And there's a helmet in there for you. And you see those all over New York now. And there have been some accidents in the last year or two that people have actually died, unfortunately. I think over in Brooklyn. But they are dangerous if they're not respected. I mean, still a two-wheel vehicle driving through Manhattan. So I'll tell you this. I will say that seeing more and more of those around, and that's a great way to get around the city. I'm selling my condo here. Wherever I land next, I'll probably buy something similar because I'm a city guy. I like to zip around, not look for parking, especially if it's a quick ride somewhere. And the company it makes, as I mentioned, I think I may have posted a picture on Twitter. It had Lime on it, which does a Lime scooter rentals and Lime electric big scooter rentals. But the brand name of that scooter is NIU. And it's only a $2.24 billion company. Majority of its sales still come from China. It's expanding into Europe as well. What I like about this company is several things. One, keep in mind, I just talked about the Web Summit that's coming up here. 2 years ago, they didn't have it last year. A year before that, I was at the Web Summit, and I met with the CEO of NIU. Him and I sat down and spoke. Very smart gentleman. I had recommended the stock to my subscribers prior to that. But boy, I was very impressed with him, and the stock continued to move much higher from there. So NIU has global expansion, but during 2020, it had revenue of $354 million, which isn't bad for a $2.24 million company. What's really impressive, it was up 18% from 2019. So even during the pandemic, and granted, yes, more people were staying home buying these types of things, but it was still during a global pandemic, sales were up 18%. This year, looking for even better growth, going from 354 million last year to 597 million this year. And by 2023, only 2 years from now, looking for an estimate of 1.16 billion. So it's trading at about 2 times sales of 2023. For a company growing like that, it's amazing. Top line annual average growth, 31% a year. That means about every 27 months or so, it doubles revenue. Earnings 33% a year in the bottom line. Last year, they actually made money. This profitable NIU. They made 40 cents a share. This year, looking for 66 cents a share. Again, in 2 years by 2023, $1.37 per share. So many of you that follow me probably own NIU or owned it at some point. Maybe you sold some, but NIU. I had it back in the single digits, ran up to above 50, pulled back to the low 20s. Right now, it's around 29.40-ish, right around there. So it's well off the lows where it was last month. I think this is a great value. I think this is a great urban mobility play. It's kind of niche in its area. There's not a lot of other competitors that are publicly traded, and still has a huge market share in China. So because so much of our sales come from China, we see a lot of opportunity in Europe and North America as this trend continues. So NIU is one to definitely add to the watch list. Let's stick with kind of the China theme here, if you will, because a lot of people hate China right now, but we're going to stick with it anyway. And that is another stock that I'd recommended in the past that was a huge winner, 10xer, and since pulled back, and that's EHang Holdings, symbol EH. So EHang is not a scooter by any means. It's what they call AAV, which is autonomous aerial vehicles. I refer to that sector as EVTOLs, which stands for electric vertical takeoff and landing. So it's a vehicle that looks kind of like a big drone, mixed between a drone and a helicopter. Your helicopter has the one propeller. The EVTOLs have several propellers depending on the brand of it. And a lot of them are going to be autonomous. They are electric, so it's run off batteries. Seating anywhere from 2 to 10 people, depending on the size. They can even probably get bigger in the future. So EHang was one of the first publicly traded companies, if not really the first reputable publicly traded company in the EVTOL space. And that's why I recommended it a couple of years ago and why it became a 10xer. Even now, its market cap is only about 1.57 billion. Did revenue last year of 26 million. 2021 looking for 100 million. So almost 4x over that time frame, 1 year time frame. They lost 9 cents a share last year. This year looking for turning a profit of 25 cents a share, which is very, very impressive, up to 61 cents a share next year in 2022. Again, extremely impressive. Because I'm going to talk about a couple of other EVTOLs which have recently gone public via SPAC. A lot of them are nowhere near even revenue, let alone earnings. So EHang's a little bit ahead of them. And there's plenty of space for all these companies. I'll talk about that in a minute. But EHang, again, it's if it wasn't a Chinese company, we'd probably be trading at twice this. But again, it is a Chinese company, so it's something where take that with a grain of salt. It may hold it back for a short time or a long time. I don't know, but valuation-wise, it's much more attractive than the other. Let's just call them flying cars. They're EVTOLs. Again, electric vertical takeoff and landing. That means they use the batteries to take vertical takeoff and landing. Much safer than helicopters, and eventually they will be autonomous. And they will be taking you from point A to point B, 25 miles, 5 miles, 100 miles, going anywhere between 2 and 220 miles per hour. I sat in a couple of them. They're pretty amazing. They really are, and they are the future. As crazy as it sounds, it is there. Somebody just asked where the Web Summit's meeting in Lisbon. I don't know. I forget. I think it's at the big conference center. It's where it was 2 years ago. There's literally, I think there's like over 100,000 people there or something last time. It was so packed. So I'm not quite sure this year how many people will be there. All right, let's keep going. Actually, real quick, before I jump into the EVTOLs, the other stocks I like in the list, I want to bring up a couple stats here that I have in the book. Morgan Stanley just came out and they actually lowered their estimates for the. We're going. It's EVTOL, but we're calling it flying car. It sounds better for the flying car industry. They now believe the total addressable market, which is what I call TAM, that's the addressable market for this trend. By 2040, I know it sounds like a long time from now, to be $1 trillion. They had it at 1.75 trillion. They lowered it down a little bit, but that's basically going from zero, folks. So you don't go from 0 to 1 trillion. You hit a billion, 10 billion, 100, 500, 700, 900. I mean, there's so along the way, this is going to be exponential growth. There's tons of money starting today you can make in this sector. By 2025, their baseline, or sorry, 2050. By 2050, their baseline, they think the total addressable market for flying cars will be $9 trillion. The bullish argument, if it goes a bullish way, according to Morgan Stanley, this isn't some fly-by-night research firm, $18.9 trillion total addressable market by mid-century. That puts a number at about 11% of global GDP. That's because anybody and everybody's gonna be getting from point A to point B in these things. I mean, I hate to say think Jetsons, but it's similar to that. And again, I've been pitching this to my old team for years, and they continue to laugh at me. And now you see it coming, not to fruition yet, but you're getting closer and closer. This is a great investment opportunity, folks. All right, so let's get back to a couple stocks here in this area. One is Joby, and symbol's JOBY. This company was a one that went public via SPAC, recently just changed over. It shot up from $10 to 17 in February when the announcement was made, then came all the way back down, dropped below $10, ran back to 13 just last week. It's about $10.30 right now. It's got a valuation about 6.25 billion. Again, I just told you EHang was 1.57 billion, 6.25 billion. Again, EVTOL, flying cars. They got a investment of 400 million from Toyota back in January 2020. Bally Gifford, who is a UK-based investment firm, hedge fund-ish, mutual fund, one of the smartest guys or smartest firms on the planet, in my opinion. They bought in the same round as well. And they made their big name by buying Tesla at $6. So they've seen innovation before, and they've made money off it. In December, Joby bought Uber Elevate, which was Uber's flying car division. At the same time, Uber said they invest another 75 million into Joby, and on top of the 50 million they invested in Joby earlier. What's really interesting about this is they're looking to launch around 2024, really get going in 2025. So again, a few years away. But because of the partnership with Uber, it's likely you'll be able to go to your Uber app, which many people have already, and be able to book really your flying car. Because in your Uber app now, it used to be just getting a car. Then it was ordering food delivered. Then it was getting a little scooter you stand on, bicycles. So it keeps expanding. And I don't think that's going to end anytime soon. I think the flying cars are next. So Joby is the one to keep an eye on. Again, not looking for anything meaningful revenue for several years out there. So it's tough to really put an estimate on where it should be, but it's one to add to the list. Another one that has not yet finished their merger, but it's ACIC is a symbol, Alpha Charlie Indigo Charlie, Atlas Crest Investment Corp. They announced early this year, it was a SPAC as well, that they'll be merging with Archer, and it ran all the way up to nearly $19, back down to 10. Right now, it's trading at $10 and a penny. So it's trading right at the $10 level, and they actually came out recently and cut the valuation deal that they have with between Archer and the SPAC. It now puts the market cap at around $2.8 billion. The company says, though, it is on path for production sales starting in 2024, and by 2025 could see sales of $1 billion. Again, you're looking out. Who knows? This is like, I'm talking about the basket approach in a minute, but this is one you want to keep an eye on. But again, this is looking out to the future, so there is added risk on this. They have a deal with United, whereas United has basically said they'll buy $1 billion worth of the flying cars from Archer. And a nice move that they did recently, which I think is very important. It's always it's about management too. They brought on Oscar Munoz as a board member, and he is the former CEO of United. So that's nice to have somebody like that in your pocket when you have a deal with United already, because hopefully the deal goes well and you continue to have more sales from United in the years going forward. So ACIC is going to be Archer when the deal is done, and they have a deal with United. As I mentioned, Joby, they had some investment from Toyota. They have a partnership with Uber. Also got some money from Valley Gifford. You can see big money, and you'll see the trend continue with the next one I'm going to talk about. The next one is still a SPAC as well, and the symbol is QELL, which is Kell Acquisition Corp, or Quell, however you want to pronounce it. And it's trading around $10. This made the announcement late last year, went from 10 to 15.5, back to 10. And they have a definitive agreement to merge with Lilium. Lilium's another player in the eVTOL flying car space. So Lilium, they have a deal with Azul, AZUL, and that's one of Brazil's largest airplane companies. And the deal is to sell 220 of these flying cars to Azul for up to $1 billion. And Azul and Lilium have plans to start really using them and putting them into service in 2025. So again, you can see the time frame for all these are pretty similar, 2024, 2025. The deal hasn't gone through yet. The definitive agreement's out there, but it's trading at that $10 level. So when I look at this, there's a lot of things I see. I see huge opportunities. I see you have to be very patient, obviously, and you just think about it. You have to think kind of outside the box because Lilium says that their jets will be cruising at about 175 miles per hour. They'll have a max range of about 155 miles. The ones that are coming out originally seats 6 people comfortably. Also has a separate little cabin for the pilot as well as luggage. So 7 people in there. And eventually, like I said, these will be autonomous, but you're going to have captains originally. And for 2 reasons. One, because you need to really prove to the FAA and everybody that they are safe, prove to the passengers they're safe, and eventually get to the point where it's everything's good to go. But the thing is, you have to keep in mind that I would jump in when it's autonomous because I've seen some of this technology, but most people wouldn't. You want to have a pilot at first, and I get that, to make people more at ease. So if I'm looking to invest in the flying car space or the urban mobility space, you have to think basket. Because out of, let's say that there's more than just these 3 in eVTOL. These are the 3 that I mentioned. Outside of Joby, Archer, and Lilium, or of these 3, let's say, I don't know which 3 or if any of 3 will be successful. Maybe all 3 will be successful. It's very similar to an approach I took several years ago with CRISPR-Cas9, which is genetic editing. I wasn't sure at the time. There's 3 big ones out there. There was CRISPR Technologies, there was Intellia, and there was Editas. Luckily, all 3 are up, and all 3 are up nicely. But I wasn't sure if any of them are going to make it, and not one has approval yet. They're a couple years away. They're closer than eVTOLs, but they're a couple years away. But that is how you make money long term in a market. You want to be there first, but you want to take that basket approach because you could say, man, I'm going to put 1,500, 5,000, 100,000 into this trend and put it all into, let's say, Joby. Well, what if Archer blows up and does great, Lilium does great, but Joby, that's the one that didn't work out. You're out. You were right on the trend, but you were wrong on that stock. And again, I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. I would rather take 4. I'd throw EHang in there as well. And if it's $10,000, instead of putting 10,000 in one stock, 2,500 in each. And you may say, well, that's the easy way out. Well, then it's the easy way out. Because for me, it's all about reward versus risk in the market, in life, in sitting down playing blackjack, whatever the hell it is. Reward versus risk, because you can see the reward in front of you, but how much risk are you taking to get it? It has to make sense. And it makes sense by making a basket approach when it comes to this. Hello from Sydney. Hello, Texas. So somebody asked the person, I'm not quite sure if that's a male or female, I'm sorry, from Finland, Quell or Lilium, Lilium versus Joby. I think I just answered that question. To me, I don't know. And that's why I look at the basket approach. So 3 other stocks, which a lot of you are international, so this helps. And I'm not quite sure how many people here in the States have the ability to buy stocks on foreign exchanges. If you don't, I really, really recommend you do that. I'm not going to recommend where to do it, but I tell you where I use Interactive Brokers. Just open a normal account there, and it gives you the ability to buy stocks on so many different exchanges around the world. I can't sleep well at night, as many of you know, and so a lot of times I'm up looking at the Asian markets, watching the European markets open, and I own stocks in all the different markets around the world for myself. And because some of the great companies out there don't trade as ADRs, American Depository Receipts, here in the States, so you have to look outside. The shortest ETFs that you can buy here that give you exposure to China or Taiwan or even Africa, Middle East, but it's much easier to take a look at just the companies like I like to do. So I recommend, if you don't have access, calling your broker and see if they can give you access. If not, maybe look at Interactive Brokers or another. I just say Interactive Brokers because with Interactive Brokers, they are consistently rated as a top broker in America here for people who want to do international investing. Okay, so these next couple are international stocks, and so the first one is Giant Manufacturing, and it trades over in Taiwan, and the symbols over there are numbers, and it's 9921. So if you go to Yahoo Finance, everybody has access to that. You type in 9921, it pops up Giant Manufacturing. So Giant Manufacturing is the largest manufacturer of bicycles and e-bikes around the world. So one trend that is really starting to take off is e-bikes, and I got to tell you, it's just fascinating to me looking at the future of these e-bikes. And Giant Manufacturing, it's about a $4.6 billion company. They're based in Taiwan. They offer the traditional bicycles, but as well as the e-bikes. They're available in over 12,000 retail locations around the world from the end of 2019 through 2022. So you have pretty much a pretty big economic shutdown pandemic in there. Company's expected more than double its earnings on earnings growth of 40%. And revenue growth at the same time of about 40%. So it's not a huge growth company, but they definitely have some upside. And e-bikes really are where we're seeing the big upside potential. Because of the pandemic and the shutdown and gyms being closed and people trying to get outside and do things more, bicycle sales in the US in 2020 during the pandemic were up 65% versus 2019. But we saw the e-bike, and e-bikes are electric bikes. People don't know. So sometimes they have like a little almost throttle on them. Sometimes they have an assist where you pedal and assist you. But they can be very expensive, as much as like little motorcycles. But the e-bike sales from 2019 to 2020 were up 145%. So very big growth there. And there's growth potential here in the U.S. Those are U.S. numbers, but really it's around the world. They're already very big in Asia, Southeast Asia, and China, and in Europe. There were 3.7 million e-bikes sold last year in Europe. And the analysts believe that number could increase, believe this or not, to 17 million by 2030. If that is the case, it will be twice as many bikes being registered each year than cars in the EU. 2019, Germans bought 1.36 million bicycles, 31.5% were e-bikes. In Belgium, where people bike a lot, over half of all the bikes sold in 2019 were e-bikes. You're seeing more cities become more and more open to it. One of my favorite cities, I think somebody in the room here is from there, if I'm not mistaken, is Copenhagen. It's probably my favorite city in Europe. Yes, Peter's from Copenhagen. And correct me if I'm wrong, Peter, Copenhagen is the bicycle capital of the world. I absolutely love it. I just love how I just see every time I'm there, a woman in a beautiful dress and high heels biking, the mother or father with the kid. It's just such a nice thing. I mean, I would love that. I would bike everywhere. The problem is when it comes to America, there's not a lot of bike lanes, and you have the craziest drivers. Here in Baltimore, I felt unsafe on my Vespa, and that was motorized. On a regular bike, my goodness, it's freaking nuts. So, yes, the bike trend though in the US is booming, and the e-bike trend to me is booming even more. So Giant is one to keep an eye on. Again, if you're able to buy into companies like this, it's one to keep an eye on. Another one here, let me get to my list. Actually a couple more here, is one's a cell group, and this one trades as an ADR here, but has very little volume, and it's ACCELL Group. It trades here on the pink sheets as ACGPF, but be very careful because it's so low. The volume's so low. but it also trades over in London. That's it trades over there, or sorry, in London, and it trades, but it's based in Netherlands. So it's a Netherlands-based manufacturer of bicycles and e-bikes. They're really expanding into e-bikes. About a $1.4 billion company. You might recognize some of the brands. High Bike, Lapierre, Sparta, Raleigh is a big one I see around here. They sell directly to customers and to retailers as well. So another bike manufacturer for you. Speaking of London, the largest bicycle retailer in the UK is currently valued at about $1 billion. It's called Halfords Group. And again, this one trades here as an ADR, HLFDY. But again, be careful. It's got low volume. For the fiscal year that ended about mid-2020, they reported annual increase of sales of e-bikes were up 230%. That's amazing. And then from the low in early 2020 through mid 2021, the stock is already up sevenfold. It has pulled back, so you want to look for a pullback. But man, oh man, this trend is just accelerating, getting going through the roaring 2020s. And you all know I like picks and shovels plays, right? These are plays that aren't directly the bikes or e-bike makers, but the picks and shovels. There's a company by the name of Thule Group, Thule. You may have heard of it. It's a $5.7 billion company based in Sweden, and they make basically bike racks. And the e-bikes require much heavier, bigger, more stable bike racks, and very niche. But Thule's been able to benefit from this. From the end of 2019 through the end of 2021, so it's not there yet, but the company's estimated to grow sales by 44%, again, during a pandemic, seeing a huge pickup. So again, this is kind of an indirect picks and shovels play. Trades here as an ADR as THUPY. And you take a look at the chart of THUPY, just a beautiful uptrend. I mean, my goodness. So I love to find these types of ideas because these are not your ideas you're ever going to hear on CNBC or Bloomberg or anywhere else you watch. You're probably not going to read about them on Yahoo Finance. It's going to be tough to find out information about them. And sometimes it may not be the most exciting, but what a great way to invest in trends. We're still investing in my trends. We're still investing in growth. But think about the diversification that a Thule or that a Giant Manufacturing brings to a portfolio that is very US centric. Huge diversification to it. And that is what we're looking for. We are looking to build one of the greatest portfolios. I mean, at the end of the day, folks, I'm trying to help you truly build your own hedge fund. A friend of mine asked me the other day, like, what exactly is a hedge fund? I said, well, really, when they started out, they were supposed to be a vehicle for high net worth people to truly create hedges with large amounts of money through various asset classes. Some of those still exist, but a lot of them end up being just glorified mutual funds that charge too much of a fee, 2% plus 20% of profit. So, and most huge hedge funds actually don't do that well. Whose hedge fund was it? Was it what's his name? The guy from New Jersey. My goodness, I have his book over there. I can't think of it. But speaking of books, before I take your questions, I have a couple of books that are laying here right now, and I'll show you a couple of these that I think, and I didn't finish these yet, but here's one called 2030. It's probably backwards, by Mauro Guillen. It's called How Today's Biggest Trends Will Collide and Reshape the Future of Everything. Pretty cool book. I'm about halfway through it, but that's a pretty cool book for people to look into reading. Another one that I'm about halfway through that I just got, it's called Non-Obvious Megatrends. This is the subtitles, How to See What Others Miss and Predict the Future by Rohit Bhargava. And he comes out with this. Oh, I just lost my spot. Damn. This comes out, I think, every year. But this is another one. Again, about halfway through. It's pretty good so far. And again, my kind of my Bible, which I always talk about, and I'll show a picture of it here, is The Future is Faster Than You Think by Peter Diamandis. He writes that with Stephen Kotler. This I've read several times. He also has books called Abundance and Bold. I recommend all three of them if you're interested in what I'm doing here and big picture trends and stuff, and just kind of opening your mind to the future. And at the end of the day, not being afraid of the future, but embracing it and being happy for the future, because most people are afraid of it. Okay, so there's some books for you as well. So let me take a couple of your questions here and see what we got going on. So somebody just asked, and again, I'm just randomly picking these, AEHR, which is AEHR Test Systems. It's had a hell of a run, I'll tell you that. It's down at below $1, wasn't it? We're down around $1 late last year. Now it's at about $9. So let's take a look here at this. I mean, don't know the company that well, so I'm gonna have to jump in and put it in my system here real quick and see what I come up with. I tell you, I can't wait to get back in the studio or my new studio, I should say. Let's see, primary designs, engineers, manufacturers, test and burn-in equipment for use in a semiconductor industry. It's about a $167 billion company, so a very small company. It's got top line growth looking forward about 32%, with earnings this year looking to come in, its fiscal year, around 28 million. So not much in sales, but it's really not bad considering it's a pretty small company. Let me take a look at its financials here. Again, about $213 million company. Their fiscal year ends in May, and the most recent one had 16.6 million in sales. That's actually its lowest number going back to 2016. So I don't like that. It's supposed to bounce back up to 28 next year, 33 the year after that. It's ran so much. I would never chase something like this. Estimated to lose 16 cents a share this year, make 12 cents next fiscal year, or sorry, make 5 cents this fiscal year, next fiscal year, 12 cents. I put it on my watch list. I have to do a little bit more research. But anytime a stock goes from $1 to $9, I'd be very careful because it can pull back to 7 and still be a huge winner. So I would just be a little careful with it. I'm not saying yay or nay on it. I just be a little careful with that. PACB, which is a testing company, Pacific Biosciences. They had a deal a little while ago. I think it was last year, year before they bought, and that fell through. Stock fell from 50 down to 20. We're hit 50 at a high in February. Consolidating, going sideways here. Many of you know I love the testing companies, genetic testing, because without the testing companies, you don't have really the future that you're potentially going to see with genetic editing, and this is the future of medicine. It's at a $6.25 billion company. Valuation's a little high because last year had sales at about 78.9 million, looking for 131 this year, up to 257 in 2 years. As far as earnings, expect to continue to lose money for the next couple of years. I like the diagnostic research testing area a lot. PAC-B, as I call it, is one I do like. But just keep in mind, evaluations are kind of out of whack for a lot of them. And I saw somebody earlier ask about NEO, which is Neogenomics, which is in the same area. This has had a big run as of late. This is a stock that I recommended for my former subscribers a long time ago. Big gains in on this one. So Neogenomics, about a similar size, $6.34 billion. But look at the sales difference. Last year it sales 444 million. This year looking for 500 million, up to about 670 million in 2 years. So, valuation wise, definitely much more attractive. And what I like is we always look for this path of profitability. Not saying PAC-B won't be profitable, but for annual profit, 2023, Neo is expected to turn its first annual profit. So again, I weigh A versus B. I like Neo if I had to choose one of the two. Doesn't mean nothing here is buy or sell, but just to give you an idea, that's kind of where I am with that. Let's see here. Former SPAC, CIFR, Cipher Mining. This was a SPAC and it's involved in Bitcoin mining. So when this was announced, it went from 10 up to 13, back down a little below 10, high 9s, and then spiked when the merger actually went through about 2 weeks ago, back to 12 and change, back down to, of course, 9 and change. Today it's around 11.55. It's up a couple pennies this morning, 11.62 right now. Not a bad play. I kind of like Cipher, and keep in mind this will likely move hand in hand with the price of Bitcoin. I mean, just it's inevitable that that's probably going to happen. I don't have any estimates on it right now. It's just so new. I don't have it from me. I do, but it's going to take me a minute to get them. So, but yeah, it's definitely one I would put on my watch list. Whoever asked about that. If you hear anything in the background, of course, the lady's doing my vacuuming outside right now. Somebody's asked about Futu, F-U-T-U. I have not liked this one for a while, and I still don't like it. I just think it's way, way overvalued and overhyped. Same person asked about Tiger, which is up fintech. Again, another one that ran up with that hype and then it's pulled back. I'd stay away from both. I think a little bit too much hype here right now for both. Somebody's asking about MP, which is MP Materials, which is the old Mountain Pass, which is the only rare earth minerals publicly traded company here in the United States. I think you're going to see a lot of money come there from the government. I love MP long term. It's needed for electric vehicles. It's needed for defense. It's something we need to have here in our country. So I really do like MP long term. Somebody said, will you cover cryptos in your upcoming services? There will be at some point. Yes, there will be some crypto stuff. Would you buy Ether or Cardano at current prices? I wouldn't. I don't know what current prices. I mean, I buy dips. I don't know where they are, but those are two of my favorite coins right now, Cardano and Ethereum. Let's see here, BTBT, somebody's asking about Bit Digital. Obviously, this is, again, involved in the Bitcoin space. This one's a little too aggressive. There's a lot of others out there that I much prefer, some of the bigger names. And you just take a look at how they have done. Marathon Digital, Mara, M-A-R-A, just off a multi-month high. Riot Blockchain, not far from breaking out to a multi-month high. Some of these are holding up just much better. TSM, which is Taiwan Semi, obviously a very big semiconductor company. It's up today about 0.5%. If it closes here, it'd be the best close that we have going all the way back to April. Thing is, be careful. If you own it, let it go. I wouldn't necessarily buy it here. It's been up about 9 straight days, but I like Taiwan Semi long term. It's definitely a leader in there. Somebody's asked about Team, T-E-A-M, which is Atlassian. I mean, my goodness, if you own it, congrats. I mean, people always talk about, well, how do you get these 10 baggers, these 100 baggers? Well, Atlassian in February of 2016 was below $17. Atlassian now is at $384. So do the math. I can't even do that off the top of my head. It's about a 20 bagger, a 23 bagger, if I can't mistake. I'm not mistaken. So 23 bagger, but I want to prove I'm right here. So 384 divided by 17, 22.6. I got to tell you, there's one thing I'm good at, it's doing math in my head, but a 34 bagger in 5.5 years. So it can be done, folks. Software company, just because it's run so damn much, it was just at $260 2 months ago. Now it's at 390 or 383, something like that. I wouldn't buy it right here. I think there's a pullback coming. Could it keep going? Absolutely, but it's one you got to be careful of right here because it's just run so damn much. Let's see. Cyclepreneur, mentioning Hut. That's also, yes, that's also another play. Hut 8 Mining, HUT, is another play on Bitcoin mining. It's gone from 350 to 11. It's had a hell of a run. Congrats. Banksa, somebody's asking about Banksa, BNXAF, sorry, BNXAF. This is really bounced. It fell below $2. It's back up to $3.10 now. I still like Banksa here. Let me just take a look at one thing here for you. It's based out of Canada, but it trades here, as I mentioned, in symbol over the counter. To me, it's how big is this company now? $160 million market cap, give or take. And you're looking at potential price to sales, trading price to sales in 2023, about two times price of sales. Looking to become profitable next year. So I like it. I think there's some big upside still left in Banksa. All right, I'm going so long right now. I got to get out of here. Sorry, I got to get going. It's been 40 some minutes. I got a call with my new team coming up. Greetings from Oslo, Henrik. Thanks for joining in. But thank you so much to everybody. Like I said, I'm going to be at the Web Summit in Portugal. So if anybody in Lisbon or the Lisbon area, I'll be in Porto for a few days as well. Wants to grab a drink while I'm over there. I'd love to sit down, buy you all a glass of wine or a drink while I'm over there. So let me know, hit me up. An announcement coming soon. But thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the show. Give me some feedback on YouTube about the show. If you like, when I look at urban mobility, look at this type of stuff. I said I was going to talk about the mental health stocks, but we got too far into it. I do want to talk about them because I keep finding more and more ideas. And I really, really think there's some great opportunities out there. And I got to tell you, I am so far into this book. I cannot wait to get in your hands. There's so many great opportunities. I will tell you this, that there's one thing, if whatever job it is you do, if you dive into and do more and more and become more excited about whatever job it is you're doing, that should tell you something. And that's how I feel right now with the stock market. I feel like every day I'm finding new opportunities. And again, folks, these aren't trading. These aren't going to go up in 1 month or 2 months. These are years out, but that's how you make money in the stock market. So I look forward to sharing all these with you. And as you know, I don't hide anything. Everything's coming at you true, real, and I'll continue to do that. But number one, thank you so much for your continuing support. I cannot wait to meet many of you all in person once things get back to normal, hopefully soon. But I will be in touch soon, and I'll be at some conferences coming up. Once I can let you know, I'll let you know where it's going to be, and hopefully I'll see some of you all there. Have a great rest of your shortened week. I'll come back Thursday or Friday to do a show. Be safe, be happy, go out there, smile, spread the love. I'll talk to you all soon. Thank you very much. I'm Matt McCall.